Kareem Al-Masri and Mira Santos lived in a world of wealth, power, and passion, but when Kareem's obsession met betrayal from the one person he trusted most, his twin brother Khalid, love turned into lethal rage that shattered Dubai's glittering nightlife forever. Dubai glowed like a jewel in the desert, its skyline rising with glass towers and neon lights that cut through the warm night air. Beneath the glimmering surface of wealth and celebration, a darker rhythm pulsed through the city's underground nightlife. Among those who thrived in this electric world was Kareem Al-Masri, a man whose name carried both admiration and fear. He was young, ambitious, and owner of one of Dubai's most famous nightclubs, Eclipse Lounge, a place where celebrities, businessmen, and tourists gathered to lose themselves in the illusion of endless pleasure. The music never stopped, and the champagne never ran dry. For many, Eclipse was a symbol of freedom, but for Kareem, it was proof of his dominance over the city's night. His rise to success had not been easy. Coming from a modest background, he had clawed his way up through ruthless determination. People said he had charm that could open any door and a temper that could shut it just as fast. He moved through his club like a king inspecting his kingdom. Every smile from a guest, every beat from the DJ, every deal made in the VIP room flowed under his control. But behind his confident smile was a loneliness that wealth could not hide. Kareem had power, but he lacked trust. Surrounded by people who wanted his money or influence, he began to crave something genuine, something real that would make him feel human again. As the desert winds carried the sound of laughter from his crowded club, he stood on the rooftop terrace watching the city lights flicker, unaware that the same brightness he adored would soon lead him into the darkest chapter of his life. One evening, while the music thumped and the lights painted the walls in gold and crimson, a new performer stepped onto the stage at Eclipse Lounge. Her name was Mira Santos, a young Filipina singer whose voice silenced the noise of the crowd the moment she began to sing. Her tone was smooth, filled with emotion that could melt even the coldest hearts. The audience, used to glamour and superficial beauty, found something different in her, something pure. She wasn't dressed in luxury or drowning in makeup. Her simplicity drew more attention than the diamonds that surrounded her. Kareem watched her from the upper balcony, his gaze fixed, unable to look away. For the first time in years, he felt moved by something beyond power and money. After that night, Mira became the star attraction of the club. Her songs brought in more guests, and her name spread through Dubai's nightlife scene. Kareem made sure she had everything she needed: luxury apartments, designer clothes, a private driver. He said it was a reward for her talent, but deep down it was something else. He wanted to keep her close, to make her his in ways that went beyond business. The more she shined, the more he found himself drawn to her light. Mira, grateful for the opportunities he gave her, saw him as a kind benefactor at first. She didn't realize how deeply he was becoming entangled in his feelings. The line between admiration and possession blurred with each passing night. What started as an innocent act of kindness soon grew into an attachment that neither of them understood. For Kareem, the singer's arrival filled the emptiness in his life, but it also awakened a jealousy that would later destroy everything he had built. Kareem's affection for Mira quickly began to shift into something darker. What began as admiration turned into a consuming obsession that grew stronger each day. He insisted on handling her career personally, choosing her songs, her dresses, and even the time she arrived at the club. At first, Mira thought he was simply being protective, but soon she realized his concern carried a shadow of control. He started calling her at all hours, questioning where she was, who she was with, and why she hadn't answered sooner. The charm that once made him seem generous now felt suffocating. Every moment she spent outside his reach made him restless. Every smile she gave someone else felt like betrayal. Employees at Eclipse Lounge began to notice the change in him. He became short-tempered, firing staff without reason, and drinking more than usual. Behind closed doors, he demanded Mira's attention and expected gratitude for everything he provided. When she tried to create distance, he showered her with gifts, pulling her back into his orbit with guilt and fear. The once dazzling club owner was slowly losing control, consumed by emotions he didn't understand. His obsession with Mira became the only thing that mattered, and the world around him started to fade. Mira continued to perform, her voice still captivating the crowds, but her eyes had lost their sparkle. The same place that had given her dreams was now her cage. Kareem believed his love was protection, but in truth, it was imprisonment disguised as care. His jealousy poisoned every moment, twisting love into possession. The more she tried to breathe, the tighter his hold became. It was only a matter of time before someone, or something, would break the fragile balance between them. Khalid Al-Masri's return to Dubai came without warning. For years, he had lived abroad, far from the city's glittering towers and his brother's growing empire. Unlike Kareem, Khalid avoided the spotlight. He preferred quiet places, simple living, and genuine people. When he arrived at the airport, few recognized him, though his resemblance to his twin was uncanny. The two shared the same sharp features and intense eyes, but their souls could not have been more different. While Kareem sought control, Khalid sought peace. Their reunion was awkward at first. Kareem introduced him to his world of luxury, showing off the empire he had built. Khalid smiled politely, but he sensed something dark beneath the surface of his brother's success. When Khalid first visited Eclipse Lounge, he was taken aback by its beauty, the music, the lights, and the energy that pulsed through every corner. It was there he met Mira. She was rehearsing before the evening show, her voice floating softly through the empty club. Khalid stood quietly, listening, feeling a strange calm wash over him. She greeted him kindly, unaware of who he was. Their brief conversation was simple, but something in her gentle manner stayed with him. Over the next few weeks, their paths crossed often. Khalid visited his brother's club to help with finances and planning, and each time, Mira seemed a little more comfortable around him. She found in him what Kareem lacked: kindness, patience, and sincerity. Khalid never made her feel owned or watched. Their connection was quiet but undeniable, forming naturally like two lonely hearts recognizing each other. Neither of them realized that their growing closeness would soon ignite a fire powerful enough to destroy everything Kareem held dear. What began as innocent friendship soon evolved into something forbidden. Mira and Khalid found themselves drawn to one another in ways neither could control. They met after rehearsals, talking for hours about life beyond fame and fortune. Khalid listened to her fears, her struggles, and her dreams, offering comfort without judgment. For the first time since coming to Dubai, Mira felt seen not as a performer or possession, but as a person. Their meetings became the only moments she felt truly free. Yet deep inside, guilt grew like a shadow. She knew Kareem's temper, his jealousy, and his need to dominate anything he cared about. The thought of him discovering their closeness filled her with dread. Still, emotions are difficult to hide. Their glances lingered too long. Their smiles carried unspoken truths. The staff began whispering, noticing Khalid's frequent visits and the subtle warmth between them. One evening, a bartender caught sight of them leaving together, their hands brushing as they disappeared into the night. The rumor quickly reached Kareem's assistant, who reported every detail to his boss. Suspicion began to coil in Kareem's mind, feeding the insecurities that had always haunted him. He told himself he was imagining things, but his instincts screamed betrayal. Kareem began secretly watching surveillance footage from the club. At first, there was nothing unusual, just professional interactions. But as days passed, small gestures became evidence in his paranoid mind. A smile here, a brief touch there. He couldn't accept what his eyes hinted at. The woman he adored and the twin he trusted, two halves of his world, seemed to be slipping beyond his control. That quiet suspicion slowly hardened into certainty, and Kareem's obsession turned to rage, a storm quietly waiting for the right moment to break. The night Kareem finally saw the truth was the moment his world shattered. Alone in his private office, he stared at the surveillance footage from the club's parking area. The grainy screen showed Mira stepping out of a car and walking toward a familiar figure, his twin, Khalid. She smiled in a way Kareem had never seen before, soft and unguarded. Then came the final blow. Khalid reached out and brushed her hair away from her face with a tenderness that needed no explanation. The clip was only a few seconds long, but to Kareem it felt endless. Every sound in the room faded. All he could hear was the rush of blood in his ears and the breaking of something inside him that would never be fixed again. The betrayal was unbearable. His mind raced with memories. How he had built everything from nothing. how he had given Mira luxury and love, how he had trusted Khalid completely. Now both had turned against him. That thought burned like fire through his veins. For hours, Kareem sat in silence, staring at the dark city outside his window. Dubai's bright skyline mocked him, every glowing tower a reminder of what he thought he owned but never truly did. Anger took root where reason once lived. He smashed the glass on his desk, cutting his hand without even noticing. Then, cold determination replaced pain. Kareem decided he wouldn't confront them in public or show weakness. He wanted control, not chaos. In his mind, this wasn't just betrayal. It was humiliation, and humiliation demanded punishment. From that moment, his love died completely, replaced by a single, burning purpose: to make both Mira and Khalid pay for destroying the image of perfection he had built around himself. Kareem's mind turned methodical as his rage settled into something colder. He spent days pretending everything was normal, greeting guests, managing the club, and smiling at Mira as if nothing had changed. But behind that calm exterior, he was building a plan. Every step was calculated, every word rehearsed. He would not lash out in public or let emotion betray him. He would destroy them quietly and completely. The first part of his plan was to create a situation that neither could resist. He invited Khalid to a private family dinner at his villa, saying he wanted to celebrate the success of Eclipse Lounge and talk about expanding to London. Khalid, unaware of the storm brewing, agreed without hesitation. Next, Kareem contacted Mira through his assistant, telling her he wanted to discuss a major new contract that could launch her singing career internationally. Flattered and hopeful, she accepted the invitation, grateful that his recent mood seemed lighter. Kareem instructed his staff to leave early that evening and ensured the villa was empty except for him. The entire place was prepared meticulously: dim lights, soft music, fine wine. It looked like the setting for peace, but it was a stage built for destruction. When the evening arrived, Kareem stood before a mirror, adjusting his cufflinks with unnerving precision. His reflection stared back at him, expressionless. Beneath his suit, his pulse throbbed with restrained fury. He rehearsed what he would say, how he would reveal what he knew. He wanted to see guilt in their eyes, to watch them crumble. Outside, the desert air hung still, heavy with silence. Both Mira and Khalid were walking into the trap he had crafted with patience and pain, unaware that the man smiling at them would soon unleash the darkness he had been hiding for weeks. The evening unfolded with a deceptive calm that masked the tension simmering beneath the surface. Mira arrived first, her soft smile hiding the nervousness she always felt around Kareem. The villa looked serene, its golden lights glowing against the quiet desert night. Kareem greeted her warmly, offering wine and polite conversation. She noticed something different about him, an unnatural calm, a stillness that felt almost rehearsed. Minutes later, Khalid entered, equally unaware of the storm about to strike. He embraced his brother, relieved to see him in good spirits, never imagining that he was walking into a carefully built trap. Kareem led them to the dining room, where an expensive dinner was set on the long marble table. The atmosphere was almost pleasant at first, filled with small talk and laughter that felt forced. Then Kareem stood up, his smile fading. Without warning, he pressed a button on a small remote hidden in his pocket. A projector flickered to life on the far wall. The screen displayed security footage from the club, Mira and Khalid meeting late at night, her hand brushing his arm, his eyes lingering on her. The room fell silent. Mira froze, her face draining of color. Khalid's voice caught in his throat, but before he could speak, Kareem's expression twisted into something unrecognizable. His calm shattered in an instant. Plates crashed to the floor as he hurled the remote across the room. The fury he had contained for days erupted in one violent surge. Shouting turned into chaos, and in a blind rush of emotion, Kareem reached into a drawer and pulled out a gun. The sound that followed shattered the silence of the villa, a single deafening shot that ended years of rivalry, love, and trust in the blink of an eye. The sound of the gunshot echoed across the vast stillness of the desert night, carrying through the villa's open hallways like a scream trapped in silence. Minutes passed before the neighbors, distant yet alert, called the police after hearing what they thought was an explosion. By the time officers arrived, the once immaculate villa had turned into a scene of horror. The marble floor was smeared with blood, shards of glass glittered under the dim lights, and the scent of gunpowder lingered in the air. Khalid lay motionless near the dining table, a pool of red spreading beneath him. Mira was found a few feet away, barely conscious, her trembling hands pressed to her side as she struggled to breathe. The security guards, who had rushed back after hearing the noise, said they saw Kareem's car speeding away into the night. The news spread across Dubai like wildfire. The story of the powerful nightclub owner, his twin brother, and the woman between them dominated every headline. Social media exploded with speculation and disbelief. Those who once admired Kareem's charm now whispered about his temper, his obsession, and the hidden darkness behind his success. Police launched an immediate search, sealing airports and border roads, but he seemed to have vanished completely. The luxury and fame that once protected him had turned into a curse, exposing every secret he had tried to bury. As dawn broke over the golden desert, investigators combed through the wreckage, collecting fragments of the night's tragedy. Khalid's body was taken for autopsy, and Mira was rushed into surgery, fighting for her life. The brothers' empire, built on ambition and pride, had finally collapsed, leaving only silence and blood where music and laughter once ruled. For days, Dubai was consumed by the manhunt. Kareem Al-Masri, once seen as a symbol of success, had become the most wanted man in the city. Police checkpoints were set up along every major highway, and his face appeared on every television screen and newspaper. Interpol issued an international alert, suspecting he might try to flee to another country under a false identity. The glamour that had surrounded his name was replaced by infamy. Every person connected to him, business partners, employees, friends, was questioned. Many claimed they had seen the change in him long before the tragedy, describing how his jealousy had turned him into someone unrecognizable. Investigators believe Kareem had fled Dubai within hours of the shooting. His private jet remained untouched, suggesting he had chosen a less obvious route. They traced his car to a desolate road leading toward the Oman border, where it had been abandoned near a service station. For several days, search teams combed through the desert, following faint footprints and discarded belongings. The scorching heat made the hunt difficult, but they knew he was running out of time. Then, on the fifth day, a breakthrough came unexpectedly. A gas station attendant reported a man who matched Kareem's description, tired, unshaven, and wearing a cap pulled low. The attendant recognized him from the news after he purchased fuel and food with cash, avoiding eye contact. Within hours, authorities surrounded the area. Kareem was found hiding in an abandoned warehouse nearby, exhausted and delirious from days on the run. The once powerful nightclub owner was dragged out in silence, his designer clothes covered in dust. The man who had ruled Dubai's nightlife was finally caught, defeated not by the law alone, but by the very darkness he had created within himself. When Kareem was brought back to Dubai, the city that once adored him watched with disbelief. Cameras flashed as officers escorted him, handcuffed and silent, through the crowded courthouse. The man who had once commanded attention in luxury suits now appeared hollow, his confidence stripped away. During questioning, Kareem showed no emotion. He admitted to everything without hesitation. He had discovered the affair, confronted them, and lost control. Yet his words carried no regret. He claimed Khalid had taken what was his, and that Mira's betrayal had pushed him beyond reason. To him, it was justice, not murder. His cold detachment unsettled even the most experienced investigators. Psychologists examined him and described a man driven by deep insecurity masked by arrogance. His success had built an illusion of control, and when that illusion shattered, his mind spiraled into chaos. Public reaction was divided. Some called him a monster. Others saw him as a man destroyed by love and pride. Meanwhile, Mira recovered slowly in the hospital, scarred both physically and emotionally. When she testified in court, her trembling voice carried the weight of the entire tragedy. She described the fear she lived in, the manipulation she endured, and the moment when Kareem's rage finally erupted. Her words moved the courtroom to silence. For the first time, Kareem lowered his head, his jaw tightening, as if the reality of what he had done finally reached him. But it was too late. Evidence was overwhelming. Footage, witnesses, and his own confession. The courtroom that once admired his charm now saw only a broken man consumed by jealousy. The final arguments left no doubt. Kareem's empire of luxury had been built on fragile foundations, and it had collapsed under the weight of his own obsession. The verdict was delivered on a quiet morning, the courtroom heavy with tension. Kareem Al-Masri was sentenced to life imprisonment without parole. The announcement sent a ripple through the audience, ending one of Dubai's most shocking and publicized cases. Kareem stood motionless as the judge read the sentence, his expression blank, eyes fixed on the floor. The once proud nightclub owner, who had ruled over the city's nightlife, was now reduced to a prisoner awaiting transfer to a cold, windowless cell. Outside, reporters gathered, broadcasting the story that had captured the world's attention, a tale of love, power, and destruction born in the glitter of Dubai's elite society. Mira attended the final hearing, her face pale but composed. Though justice had been served, there was no joy in her heart. The memories of that night haunted her, the flash of anger in Kareem's eyes, the sound of the gunshot, and the image of Khalid falling lifeless to the floor. After the trial, she decided to leave Dubai forever. With help from the embassy, she returned to the Philippines, determined to rebuild her life quietly, far from the lights that once blinded her. She began singing again in small cafes, her voice softer, touched with sorrow that audiences could feel but never fully understand. Khalid was buried in a peaceful ceremony attended only by close relatives. His grave overlooked the sea, a calm contrast to the chaos that had ended his life. As years passed, Eclipse Lounge was demolished, replaced by a new complex that bore no trace of its tragic past. Yet, for those who remembered, the story lingered, a reminder that beneath the luxury and brightness of Dubai's nights, jealousy could turn even the most glamorous love into a deadly shadow.